Hello and welcome back to Alex Goes Sailing. In this episode I'm going to try and get this new trailer underneath that big boat. So it could be quite an interesting process. So I've just picked up this massive trailer. Now from the hitch, which is on the back of my truck, to the very end of this trailer, which is, well, the light board brackets there, they extend out another meter, but to the end there, that should bring it to where that rudder is on the boat. So perfect length, and if I do need to go longer I can. But the one thing that I do have to do is I'm not using these rollers, so they're coming off. The set of axles actually need to move forward, because the way you use a trailer is you've got to balance it properly, so you haven't got too much weight on your hitch, and you haven't got, well, you basically got to balance it correctly. So there's, I think, about 150 kilogram on the hitch there, and then whatever weight per axle. But this trailer was made for a motorboat, so you've got massive engines at the back, which is why the axle's all the way at the back, because the front of the boat is not very heavy. But for us, with a TRIMARAN, all of the weight is pretty much in the middle. So these axles probably have to be moved up, maybe, I don't know, thinking 4 foot, decent amount. And that'll also make it easier when maneuvering the trailer, because it'll pivot much sooner and follow the car a lot easier. So the further I can get the axles forward, the better. All I want is to have the right weight at my hitch. So I'm going to get it pretty much where I want it, and then we can make small adjustments quite easily. The only thing we'll have to do is adjust the brake cable or threaded bar that pulls on the brake cables, so that'll get shortened down to whatever length I desire. And then to actually move the axles, it's just U-bolts, nice and easy, slide them back and forward. So I'm going to disassemble most of this now. I've now fully disassembled this trailer. Nothing's holding on this set of axles. They're like connected together with like a bar thing on each side, so they're like in their set. All we've got to do is roll them forward. I'm going to do a measurement on the boat there, see where the other set of axles go to. I wanted them a foot forward, and the only thing different is I've got 3 axles. So yeah, I'll try and figure it out, measure from the hitch back there, position them roughly where I need to be, clamp them on. I won't bother with putting the brakes back on just yet, and then once they're underneath the boat, I'll be able to use a set of scales on the hitch, work out if my hitch weight is correct with the position these are in once the boat's on it, and then I can finally clamp it all. Well, it'll be clamped down, but I can finally fit all the brakes and make sure everything's nice and dandy, put the mud guards back on, things like that. So what I'm going to do now is I've got this railway sleeper here, nice trendy Crocs, but yep, jack this up with my jack, and then that will lift the frame off of the axles. Right, just laid out the tape measure, and this measurement 560 from the hitch to right there, and that is the first axle on this trailer that's underneath the boat at the minute. And if I'm thinking, if I put that to the middle axle there, I've got the whole extra of this axle in front, and hopefully that'll take the extra weight that I need over there. So I'm going to wheel this up and put it right in between. So hopefully this is much easier to push forward than it was taking it all apart. So I've moved those axles into the right spot. Don't need to clamp it back down, but I think that's good. It does look a bit silly with all of this extra. Camera doesn't help much, but it's probably in the middle of the trailer, those set of axles. And the one thing you have got to remember is I don't really need all this frame. The support for well, if you look underneath there, you can see the axles and you can see that white thing. So that white thing is the thing that would be supported, and that would be roughly here, so just behind the axles. The other white thing would be right in front. Then you've got to remember that you've got the overhang. The back of the boat would probably sit somewhere here-ish, so not too far from the axles at all, so the back of the actual boat. Then you've got the overhang of the mast and the kick-up rudder. So it's kind of excess I don't really need. Could like chop it off here and have the extending light board there, but I mean, it doesn't really matter too much. I've got the excess if I need it. But yeah, I'm gonna whack these clamps back on. You can see it's just floating the frame all the way across. It's literally just touching the front. So we'll clamp this up, see how we go. Right, I'm just doing up the bolts now that they're all seated, and I've double checked the measurement front to back to make sure they're square on both sides, which is good. I'm just using this little system I've got here to make sure that the frames themselves are pushed as far wide as they can to fit the angle line that's they're going to be clamped to. Make sure they're tight in there. It's going to help quite a lot. And I'm just using this car jack. You can hear the creaking as well on the frame. So that's nice and tight, and I just line these up where they were before. They kind of fit underneath these little plates. Right, it's another day and we're getting ready to move the trailers about. Right, so we're going to move this straight back. Should give us enough room. Also back that up, unhitch, hitch this, move this back. Once that's back enough, we should be able to jack it and then pull this trailer out from underneath and then switch round and then hook up to this one, slide it underneath. And fingers crossed that it is actually going to be that simple, because for some reason I don't think it is. But I'm an expert now at moving boats that aren't on trailers or in the water. So yeah, let's see how this goes. Right, so I've moved the boat right back. That means we've got a lot of space up front. You can see the other trailer over there, so plenty of space, so I can always drive this one out and back it either side, probably on that side. Grab that one and then straight back in. I measured the height of the boat, and that sits at about between 2 foot and 1.5 foot. And the lowest, well, the highest point on the axle over there is about 1 foot, touch over 1 foot. So if we keep the boat at this height, we should be fine bringing it in and out. The only problem is this support here, or the front of the boat, I guess, because the actual set of axle bars, crossbars, have to cross underneath that, and to support that you're gonna have jacks. So that's going to be the biggest challenge. I do have the engine crane, so I could try and like jack up the front here. Those got bars and I can switch between the two, which might work. The rear of the boat is fine because I can take off the rear crossbar and pull away from it. So as long as I support that really well, then the front shouldn't be too bad, hopefully. I've got the engine crane up there, as you can see. Alright, I've located some beams. Jack in the middle. Plan is to jack it up and whack some more beams running crossways to tie it in, and then back again. I'm going to remove these bunks and support this. I've also thrown supports under the armours just to stop it tilt inside to side, not really to take any weight. I'll jack this up, shore it up, and we can drop it, and then we'll do the same with the front, and then it's time to pull the trailer out. it's all blocked now. You can see transverse, and then the jack's in there, and that should have enough room to lower out. I've also wedged it a bit here and here, just to make sure, just want to tip too much, although we still have it supported and it's touching. So hopefully I can just let off on this jack and it will stay put. Alright, it's coming off. Right, that's the jack completely off. I'm going to go give the bow a shake, do the shake test while the jack's still somewhat there. Oh, that's solid. Okay, I'm on the armour now, hanging off of it with my own weight, not moving at all. So I can safely say that is pretty solid. There's some jiggling of the boat. Yeah, that's solid. I think it's a good job that I put down these big sleepers there to spread the load a bit, because the ground is a little soft and you don't want it sinking in too much. So now that that's done, we can focus on the front, and I can use my good jack because I can remove it. We'll move to the front and we'll figure out a way to support this. So I used this crane just to release some of the tension while I had nothing supporting underneath here. Now I've got that jack placed, I can now bring the trailer forward till I reach the jack. Then I've got to stop and re-support somewhere. Hopefully, I think I'll be able to do it with 2 stoppages before I get the axles all the way through that are at the back there. So hopefully it's not too bad. The only thing left really supporting is that, so I'm just going to drop the bolt on that and hopefully it goes well. When I pull the trailer forward, I'll have to remove the crane. So yeah, it's literally balancing on everything. But overall, pretty happy so far. So let off this jack and undo that bolt. Right, I don't know if you saw that on the trailer. It sprung up so much. Here we have the tyres, and then right, all the tyres are deflated now, and it's supported there. Seems very stable. I will drop this arm down here a bit. If I can do that with jacking. Just leave that down there so it doesn't catch on any of these U-bolts. Can't be having that. Now I've set this here, so I've got a reference point so I can see out my car of where I want that wheel to stop, so it doesn't hit there with that frame that's in there. So that's the first stopping point. Let's start up Brutus and get started. I just manually moved it. The camera battery died, so I had to switch it out. But I literally dragged it around the top, disconnected it, pivoted it, pushed it, and then pivoted it again to get it lined up with the boat. So I'm just going to get Brutus, attach, send it back. I'm going to try and keep it as central as possible because, well, I want to be as close as possible to center. I'm going to be careful of these frames so they don't clip the little wings on the white supports. But apart from that, we'll give it a whirl, so I'll set you back up. Underneath the trailer, and you can see The front is quite far ahead. Now I should be able to get this crane slid back underneath, take support off the front, drop that, slide it back until that other axle gets to the other set of weirdly, what's that, 3 stands on a block of wood, which is extremely safe, extremely safe. Nothing sketchy going on in these parts. Now at the back over here you can see still perfectly supported, nice and easy. I had to be careful with that bar there because it's kind of skewed over there, didn't really think of that, but luckily it's enough. So I'm just going to bring it back, yeah, and keep it somewhat central to the boat. But at the minute it's looking very nice. This is probably a good time to say do not do what I'm doing because I'm an idiot, but yeah, it's working, very nice. Come underneath the boat, see where that through hull is there. That white support has to sit behind that, so that means we can move this one along. So I'm just going to get the crane to take more of the weight. It's only going to do it for a few seconds. I can shuffle that along and pretty much done. Slide it back, find the right position I want with the bow roller, and see where it comes to on the back. And then make sure we're not going to hit that crossbar at the front, because I've been keeping an eye on that. Might have to go a bit higher, but we'll move this back and then we can always jack it up a bit more. But yeah, whee! It's looking good at the back. That frame's a little close that way, but with where I've got to bring the trailer, it should be a little better. We're slightly off center. If I go back and then swing around, we should pretty much there, because the way the trailer is. So straight back, and then the last little shimmy, get it in line. So that's finally in position. You can see it's, well, basically there. Look at that. That's where the light bulb goes, that's where the rudder kicks up. So perfect length. We can obviously slide these out a bit, and they've got little handles you can undo and you can pull them out, but no, perfect. Looking at the back of the boat here, looks like I'm gonna have to drag it that way a bit. You can see it's not said, although this boat isn't very central, you can kind of see how the rudder itself isn't even central to the main thing, and the companionway isn't central to the boat. It's all a little bit weird, but yeah. Right, I've done some aligning. The trailer's pretty much central. It might be out by what, 30 mil, 40 mil, something like that. But I might be able to square that away when we sort of drop this back end onto the trailer. Show you what I've done up the front. I did some figuring out, and I managed to figure out this solution. As you can see this. So we've got the white cradle I've made. I've put on the crossbar that came with this trailer. It had the rollers on it, you saw me taking those off. I've clamped them on there, and these are the clamps off of the other trailer. Fit on this bar perfectly, and you can kind of see how they go in there. I'd probably end up putting a bolt through, like a captive one on the inside, so it won't like interfere with the hull, but that's probably what I'd do with those. You can see it's slightly off center, that's the only weird thing, but I mean there's a bolt here that locks it from pivoting, so I mean that should be fine, and I'll probably end up putting a support from here up to this board up here. So I'm going to get the jack and block of wood, and I'll show you the jacking process and the installation of these crossbars at the back now that I've figured it out. few more of them. I'm going to whack on one more bar, which is down there, which I'm going to put on the opposite side where that bar is, and hopefully that should be enough support and I can release the load. I might have to use a shorter bits of box section because that might just be a bit too low and be scraping along the ground, which I don't want. But I have so many different sizes, you can see there. I'm sure I can find something. If not, I can just cut it or get some made to order, but it's looking good. So you will see this when it's somewhat done. Now, I did manage to finish up the install and it went quite well, and I actually had to raise the boat up maybe another 6 inches higher, but overall nice and solid. But now I need to add some stabilization to the ammers, so it's got a bit of sideways stabilization, so when I'm going around corners on roads really fast, I've got something to hold it. So I decided to come up with something. Right, so we've got the bracket with all the relevant holes in it now, and as you can see, I've sprayed it up with some galv spray to make sure it doesn't rust out, or at least very quickly. You've got these chunky big U-bolts with double nuts. I've got the appropriate washers for them there. This is a screw jack thing with like a rotating pin thing here. Nice bracket, well protected. It's got like a ball joint on the end as well, so that is going to meet up with the bottom of this hole here, and then the bracket will just bolt on here. So I'm going to put all of these bits together and we'll have a support. One thing I have to do is make up a rubbery cap thing for this, so it's got a bit of softness to it, so it's not just metal, and a bit of grip. So that's another thing I've got to do a little bit later. But let's get this bracket bolted on. So that's all fitted up now, and you can see just turns so easy up here. It's greased a bit too, full thing. This armour has to go in a bit further, that's why it's here. The other side lines up nicely and that's tight in. There's a bit of play in there, which is quite nice really, because it means that I don't have it perfect. Pin pops out, there is another hole in there so I can mount it off to the side. Don't know why I want to do that, but it's perfect for removing these, because when I'm bringing the boat in over the top, I don't really want to wallop one of these underwater if I'm not seeing it, or if it comes back down on a funny angle or something, don't want it to rest on these. So I'll just pop the pin, pull them off, and then put them back on at the top of the ramp. Very easy, nicely nut and bolted, very sturdy. Now that's it for this episode. I've still got some finishing touches to do for the trailer, but they're small things and I'll probably do those off camera. But if you like this episode, leave a comment down below and tell me how sketchy that was for you watching me trying to jack up this boat and switch the trailers out, because it was very sketchy for me. But anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next episode.